The movie starts with a boy named Ricky being taken to a foster house by Child Welfare Services officer Paula and a police officer named Andy. The foster house is run by Bella and her husband Hector. Paula explains to Bella that Ricky can sometimes be a nuisance, as he has a history of stealing, running away, throwing rocks, loitering, and other bad stuff. However, she believes that a change of scene will straighten the boy out. Bella, who seems very warm and compassionate, is also enthusiastic about Ricky and feels like he's going to be okay with her. Meanwhile, Ricky examines the foster house and immediately gets back into the car, claiming that he doesn't like his new home. Since the foster care is on an isolated farm in the countryside, Ricky doesn't want to live there. However, when Officer Paula threatens to leave him on the streets, he reluctantly steps out of the car. She then tells him that she'll come every 8 weeks to inspect if he has improved or not. After a while, Bella's husband Hector arrives with a hunted boar on his back. Since he has a rifle, Paula suggests he keep it away from Ricky before driving away. After Paula leaves, Bella introduces Ricky to Hector and tries to crack a few jokes, but the little boy is uninterested. Later during dinner, Hector, who's quiet and cranky, asks Ricky if he can work on the farm like a real man. This makes the little boy upset and he storms off into his room. Seeing this, Bella approaches Ricky and talks to him from outside the door. She informs him that she has stacked a bunch of books and other necessary items in his room. Ricky quietly observes the room but doesn't respond, so Bella bids him a good night and leaves. That night, while Belle and Hector are asleep, Ricky takes a torch and escapes the place. However, the very next morning Bella and her dog Zag find Ricky sleeping on the field about 200 meters away from the house. She tries persuading the boy to return but he refuses. Finally, after promising to provide him with sausages, bacon, and pancakes, Bella convinces Ricky to return. Later, the little boy tries to talk to Hector, but as usual the latter is cold and harsh. Hence, he goes back to his room and picks up a hot water bag placed by Bella. As he feels the warmth, he decides to give his new home a try. Shortly after, he tries to get along with Bella, who's very maternal and generous. After a short conversation, she takes him hunting. When they find a pig, Bella shows her hunting skills and stabs it with her knife. Surprisingly, the poor boy gets terrified at the sight and passes out. That night, Bella bakes a cake for Ricky's birthday and sings for him, which makes the little boy happy. He's even happier and grateful when Bella and Hector present him a lovely dog as a birthday gift. Ricky can't thank the couple enough because it's the first time he's ever celebrated a birthday. Before going to bed, he tells Bella that he's happy to have found them and promises not to run again. In the next scene, Ricky plays with his new dog who he's named Tupac. Just when we see Ricky showing his childlike nature after receiving so much love and affection from Bella, something unexpected and sad happens. He finds Hector crying over Bella's dead body, after she unexpectedly collapsed while hanging the washed clothes. After Bella's funeral, Hector receives a letter from Paula stating that without Bella, he can't continue Ricky's custody. Hence, she will arrive next week to pick Ricky up and find him a new home. However, the little boy doesn't want to leave as he's already made himself comfortable at the house. After a while, Hector approaches him and mentions that he will be venturing into the woods for a few days. Ricky insists on going also, but Hector refuses to take him. As a result, an enraged Ricky burns the barn trying to fake his suicide and runs into the woods with Tupac. He also steals Hector's rifle and some food. However, his plan quickly goes south when he gets lost into the wilderness and runs out of food. Fortunately, before his situation could get worse, Hector finds him and Tupac. The two quarrel for a while, but soon start walking together. After a while, Ricky starts to complain about all the troubles he's been facing as of late. He then mocks Hector for being raised in the wilderness, and calls him a hillbilly. Unsurprisingly, this enrages Hector, and as he approaches Ricky he trips and fractures his ankle. Because of this, he's unable to walk, so he decides to camp in the place for a while. Back at Hector's place, Paula and Andy inspect the house and the burnt barn and conclude that Hector has abducted Ricky. Meanwhile, in the woods, Ricky and Hector reminisce about Bella and start bonding. They also have an eel for dinner and warm themselves by the fire. After a while, Ricky mentions that just like Hector is grieving for Bella, he also grieved for his friend Amber. She was with him in foster care and was always happy and cheerful. However, one day the authorities took her away to a new home, and that is where she had trouble with her new father and eventually died. After a few weeks, when Hector's ankle heals, he and Ricky along with their dogs start venturing deep into the woods. Shortly after, they find a house and decide to stay there for the night. Inside, they find a wanted notice for both of them. Surprisingly, the notice states that a widowed and mentally unstable Hector kidnapped Ricky. As the two stare at each other in disbelief, 3 hunters arrive at the shelter and threaten to inform the police. Ricky tries to explain that Hector is an innocent man, but the hunters assume that he's molesting the little boy. One thing leads to another and a fight breaks out between Hector and the hunters. Fortunately, Ricky fires the rifle in the air, threatening the hunters to get away from his uncle. Soon, the two escape into the woods again after stealing all the guns from the hunters. On the way, Hector worries about the police searching for them. Little Ricky tries assuring him that he'll testify to the police, but Hector reveals that he was once arrested for manslaughter. Hence, even if Ricky says that he's innocent, the police won't believe him. In the next scene, a worried Hector suggests Ricky go back to the welfare center, but the latter refuses. He mentions that the state custodies are just like juvenile prisons, where kids are often mistreated. Hearing this, Hector decides to take the boy with him, but not before warning him that winter is coming and that it's going to be tough in the woods. Elsewhere, the Child Welfare Service and police start pursuing the duo in the woods. On the other hand, the two of them continue their travel by stealing food, clothes, and toilet paper from the hikers' huts they come across along the way. After several days of walking deep into the woods, the duo find a hut where they decide to spend the night and steal some food. However, on entering, they find a seriously ill ranger inside. Being the kind man that he is, Hector decides to stay back with the ranger, while Ricky heads out to find some help nearby. In the next scene, on his way to find help, Ricky runs into a girl named Kahu. When he tells her that he needs someone to help a sick ranger, she rides him on her horse to her house. Upon reaching, she informs the police about a sick ranger and asks them to help as told by Ricky. Later she introduces Ricky to her father, who looks pretty excited to meet him as he is famous all over the news. That night, Ricky stays at Kahu's house and has a good time. However, when he returns to the hut the next morning, he finds out that the place has been raided by the police and Paula. Scared, Ricky makes his way back into the woods following the water that leads to the higher grounds as told by Hector previously. Sadly, on the way, he's caught by Paula and Andy. Paula tries to entice the boy with nuts and chocolate and also assures him to not take him to juvenile prison if he reports to the authorities that Hector sexually assaulted him. However, Ricky refuses and runs away. After a while, he manages to find Hector by following him through the water trails. The two have an emotional reunion and then continue their journey through the woods. Unfortunately, as they walk a bit further, they encounter a boar that kills Hector's dog Zag. Although Hector is able to put down the beast, they're approached by another one soon. This time, Ricky takes out his rifle and manages to shoot it in the nick of time. After burying Zag, Ricky, who's been carrying Bella's ashes all along, shows them to Hector. Following this, the duo heads to a waterfall high in the mountain range and scatters her ashes, as it was her last wish before dying. After some months, winter arrives and the two of them walk in the snowy bushes. One day, they noticed some police officers in the woods hunting for them. However, they manage to hide themselves and reach far away. Afterward, they meet a man named Psycho Sam who lives in the woods on his own. Sam offers the duo to join him and stay at his rugged place as long as they like. Even after learning about the two being hunted by the police, Sam chooses to help them. At night, the two have trouble sleeping, so they decide to talk. Ricky writes a poem about Hector and reads it out to him, which the latter loves. While they remember and talk about Bella, Ricky asks why Hector never had any kids with her. Hector hesitantly replies that it was because of his infertility. Hearing this, Ricky wonders why some people give up on their children so easily like his mother, whereas some people like Hector and Bella can't have a child, so they decide to adopt. When he gets upset, Hector comforts him by saying that his mother probably was very young and naive. So, she didn't want to take responsibility. He also mentions that Ricky is pretty likable. The following morning, Ricky finds out that the police have arrived nearby. It turns out that the police found them by tracking Ricky's phone, which was dead, but Psycho Sam charged it without informing them. Wasting no time, he informs Hector about the impending danger, and together they try to escape in Sam's old car. While the duo and Tupac drive away, Sam decides to distract and halt the police in order to buy the two some time to escape. In the next scene, Ricky and Hector drive through the woods with a bumpy ride until they reach the mountains. Shortly after, they're chased by several police cars and helicopters. Now that they're surrounded by the police, Paula asks them to surrender. However, the two of them turn the car in a different direction and manage to escape. Soon, they crash the car and Hector hurts his leg. At the same time, the police also arrive and Hector finally decides to give up. Upset about the betrayal, Ricky starts shouting in front of the police that he is a molester, while Hector surrenders and walks towards the police. Ricky points the rifle at him, and asks him to stick by because they're a family. However, Hector refuses to stay. Just then, the same hunter from before arrives and gets ready to fire at Hector, but a police officer pushes him to the ground. This causes the hunter to fire into the air, and as a result, Ricky gets scared and inadvertently shoots Hector, injuring him. After the commotion, the police finally arrest Hector while Ricky is taken away by Paula. Luckily, a few days later, Kahu's family gets custody of Ricky. The little boy is overjoyed to get a new family and home. In the following scene, Hector is released from jail and starts to live in a rehabilitation center. One day, Ricky goes to see him and apologizes. He also invites him to join Kahu's family and help them on their farms. Hector, who had been hating the rehab, agrees immediately. Moreover, he tells a poem that he had written and memorized for Ricky. After this, the two hug each other and share an emotional moment. At the end of the movie, the duo again heads into the woods looking for a new adventure. That was all from the video. I hope you liked it. Subscribe for more content like this and hit the like button to help us out. Also leave a comment if you want us to recap your favorite movie. Until next time. Take care.